The information provided on lifeinterruptedradio.com is for educational purposes only.
Welcome, everyone, to the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio. I'm your host, Sharon Sayler from SharonSayler.com. And it's my Friday. I hope it's your Friday, too, or at least a break that you've got looking forward to. I'm down here in sunny Florida. I know half of the northern part is still freezing. It's still a little chilly down here, but it's nothing like what the people up north are going through. So I'm not going to say I'm curled up with anything except my chai tea again, but I'm not needing it because it's actually quite lovely outside right now. So yeah, I'm just really been enjoying it. The tea's good too. I made some actually homemade almond milk again. I'm really into making that homemade almond milk. It's so simple. You guys should try it. Anyway, I've got some fun things planned this weekend. I'm going to the farmer's market, and one of my favorite vendors, you know, if you've listened to the show at all, you know I try to find farmer's markets wherever I go. And this particular farmer's market is seasonal, so he's not here year-round. But one of my favorite vendors is going to be there, and he has the best turmeric root. I love it. I love to juice it. It's a little bit tangy, a little bit zippy with some of his, he calls it baby ginger. Talk about, whoa, but it is awesome. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. I hope you're doing something fun. And tonight we've got somebody fun too. She, among so many things, but I'm just going to tell you right now, she just loves to have a good time. And that's what I love about Kerri Hummingbird, besides so many other things that you're going to find out why I love this girl. She is an award-winning author, soul guide, host of the Soul Nectar Show. That is an awesome show. If you haven't had a chance to listen to it, go over to iTunes, find it, Soul Nectar Show. I'll have the link on the website. She's an intuitive subconscious explorer who helps women who are starving for meaning in their lives and to step into their power and their voice. And that, you know me, always talking about having that confidence and that ability to stand up for yourself, be your best self-advocate. She has founded the Skills Not Pills movement to invite people to dive into the spiritual journey of awakening. And we'll talk more about that too. So welcome, Kerri. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for inviting me to come on. This is so much fun. I'm so excited to be on your show.
I know. I miss you. We haven't chatted in a while.
We'd like to have fun.
Yes. Oh, my gosh. Last time we had a great time up in Calgary not too long ago, too. So, you know, it's so much fun to have people I know on the show that I so much enjoy their work. But you have, man, just an amazing story. Will you share with us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, I've had quite a journey with my mind and coming to a place where I can be happy and joyful and solid, you know, like show up in relationships fairly predictably and
I love how you talk like that.
Fairly joyfully, you know, but, you know, that wasn't always the case. I mean, I spent many years in psychotherapy on a therapist's couch, you know, talking about my problems and trying to figure out, you know, like I was about half of my life was like, what's wrong with Kerri? Because, you know, she's so smart and so talented. And why can't she just get her stuff together? You know, what's up with her? Like, why does she get so far and then like, you know, go wing wang the other way and go do crazy things? So that was kind of my family's journey with me too. And through the long story made short, you know, I realized that the reason why I was having so many problems was because I had some early childhood stuff that got really stuck in my framework. You know, I had some early childhood abuse right from the time I was 1. My natural father was, you know, he was starting to molest me at 1 year old, if you can imagine that.
Oh my gosh, I can't. That's hard.
At 1 year old, and my mom found him doing that, and she immediately was like, we're out of here, you know. And this is back in the day, 1969, 1970 in Texas, where they wanted pictures of it before they believe, you know, that it was happening. And my mom said, well, you're not going to get pictures, I'm just taking her away. And, you know, so but the thing is, she married the second guy she married was like a violent drunk, you know, so it was like frying pan into the fire. So my first 5 years was like very dark and scary and like hiding in my bedroom. And, you know, the time when your child is like, you want your child to have the best is like, this is what I was going through. So from the time I was 5 on, I think best dad ever. Like, he was awesome. My mom met Mr. Right, third time's a charm, and he was great. He was a great dad, and he just passed away. So, that's something I've been going through this fall, but what an amazing dad. So, so there's always been like this Jekyll and Hyde inside of Kerri.
That's an interesting way to explain it, because we've had numerous guests on, both ones who have been through it, the thrivers. We don't use the word survivors here. We're always talking about we are thrivers. We get
thriving.
Yeah, we thrive. We get through it, as well as people, doctors, professionals who talk about what they call ACE, which I just hate that acronym. Let's see. Childhood experience, adverse childhood experience.
Yes.
And I'm like, that so minimizes it.
It so minimizes it. Terrifying childhood experience. And and the thing that does to you, I realized, is that it really makes you have a lack of trust. It makes you really, at a deep level, like, your mind is telling you, I can trust this person. Why am I having a problem? But like, deep inside, you just can't. Like, and you like act out in weird ways, or you perceive things in ways that aren't really true. So there's a lot of things that I realized were going on, and the psychotherapy helped me in some ways it helped me a lot to navigate thought tunnels. Like, I'm really good at thought tunnels now.
You said something, though, about I can trust this person, but my mind tells me differently. But I'm thinking, if you're 0 to even, 14, 10, 15, I don't know, but not 5, 0 to whatever. How many times as a small child do we just take somebody else's word for it? An authority figure, mom, dad, teacher, whatever, that I'm trustworthy, or no, you can trust Joe over there. You can trust Susan over there. Or the one that just so much talk about today is where we just go give them a hug, and forcing little people to do things they really intuitively don't want to do. And I think that's this fascinating area that I've been exploring, that's helped me as I started to thrive even more. My healing accelerated when I started examining previous trauma. And not all of it was from childhood. Some of it was self-inflicted at a much older age.
Well, yeah, it's just ongoing, right? It creates a frequency, is what I realized. So a lot of my work that actually helped me was subconscious. And it wasn't until I was really 40 years old and I left my marriage. I was in a 20-year relationship that was, of course, reflecting out to me all those patterns of things. He wasn't physically abusive to me, but he was mentally abusive and emotionally abusive. And it was because he had his own abuse, that he was dealing with from his childhood. So we were mirroring to each other, like, all that stuff that we both had to deal with. So bless his heart, we were going through some difficult things together. And when I finally left, because I said, I watched my mom and my dad have a really good relationship, and this isn't that. We keep trying to make it that, but it's not like that. I need to go work on me. It's too much chaos in my brain. My brain was on overdrive. I was waking up with nightmares. I was waking up with these nightmares of like being choked and I can't speak, like, yeah, like you're trying to speak and you can't scream for help. Like you're like trapped in there. It was terrifying. So I finally left and I said, you know what? If I'm bad, I'm just going to be bad. And I think that was the thing that really saved me, because I finally said, I'm just going to be me. And shortly after that is when I got my first spiritual teacher. And I finally was open, because I thought, it's not going to be the same way. I'm not going to go sit on a couch and talk about how bad I am, or why I'm doing these things that I can't control, or, how to like look inside me and find what's wrong. I'm tired of doing it that way. I want to do it a different way. And then I found this path where it's not about that at all. It's the opposite. It's like upside down world. It's like, what's right about you?
Yes. Oh my God. What's so funny is that I have found every time I get to that point where I say, that's it, I'm done. And I really mean it. Sometimes I've said, that's it, never again, but that's not the same. It's like this physical outburst of, that's it, I'm done. All of a sudden everything switches and it does become upside down world. That's when the teachers appear, or whatever you're supposed to be learning appears in that moment. And I find that so fascinating, that when it takes us getting to a certain point And that's where I keep wanting to pay attention, that I don't have to dig so deep next time. So
Well, that's called awareness. So one of the teachers I got led to is a Toltec teacher, and the Toltec teachings are all about the four agreements. If people have read that book by Don Miguel Ruiz, such a great book. Oh my God, I love that book. It's like, I wish that would be a handbook for all elementary school kids.
What a great idea.
Just give them, that's your first reading assignment in first grade, because it's really simple. It's written really easy, and it's so helpful. Don't take it personally. Do your best. Be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. These are all wonderful teachings. And he explains how not to do all those things, which I was always confused about, so it's a powerful path when you can step in and find something that really works for you. And the message I want to say is that if something's not working for you, then stop doing it. Just because everybody else tells you that it should work, and they say, well, you're just not trying hard enough, keep doing this. If it's not working, it's not meant for you. Like, keep looking for the thing that works, because when you find the thing that works, it flows and it opens up and it works, and you find some solutions, you find some relief.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can even relate that to my autoimmune thriving journey. The experiences I went through early on, there was a lot of, I'll say, hit and miss. And sometimes it was just a personality clash with the provider, the professional. It was just like, or I find that I'm very highly sensitive to a lot of things. If somebody said, take 2 and you'll feel better in the morning, I could take like a quarter of it and be just fine. 2 would be way too much for my body. So I know that about myself, that many people at first, oh no, you don't believe it or whatever. And that's the part where I always say, if it's what is that quote by Einstein? That you keep doing over and over.
Oh, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Right. And I think that works in our health and our relationships and our, not just our whole life, but I think about that in our health, that just because it worked for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for us. And I love that. I appreciate that you bring that up.
Yeah. And there's another aspect too, which is, I found is really powerful, was don't identify with the labels. The labels are so damaging. They are so damaging. It's part of that whole negative thing. It's like, I want to define who you are, and so I can, like, quote, help you. But by the way, I'm making it all up and I really don't know how to help you. I'm speaking on behalf of the medical industry right now,
Well, you know what bothered me
We're guessing.
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I got my diagnosis, the body language alone, I didn't know what the word meant, dermatomyositis. Goodness sakes, that could be supercalifragilistic I didn't know what it meant. And so I just knew it was a long word, and I was going to have to figure out how to spell it. I'm such a creative speller. But anyway, that's a different story. Their body language alone, I went, this isn't good. But what was interesting to me, the minute I had that label, it was almost if it was branded on my forehead, and everybody made assumptions. And when I told them, look, I'm going to be off all of these meds in 3 years. This is not who I am. And I would hear things like, get real, Sharon. You're not being realistic. That was so annoying to me, because the use of words is so powerful on our subconscious. And I'm preaching to the choir here with Kerri, I know, but I just want the audience to, when someone says you have and they give you a label, the subconscious, if it's an authority figure or an assumed authority figure, you go, oh my goodness, okay, and then start believing it. That's the problem with the word have. I was experiencing something, but that didn't mean I have it. And I tried to explain that to my a professional one time when he gave me the label. And I said, look, I don't have dermatomyositis. And he's like, going into the get real thing. I said, look, I can have cockroaches, but that doesn't mean I own them. That means there's something in the way, in the experience, that I don't want, and I want to get rid of them. And so that's my whole speech on these ideas of labels, and I'm glad you bring them up, because they can be so damaging. And I know Kerri knows this. 3 years and 2 months later, off all meds. Yeah, I missed it by 2 months. Except I don't know why I just didn't tell them I was going to be over it in 3 months, you know? Where did that 3 years come from? I don't know. But anyway.
Some part of you knew how much time it was going to take in the physical reality.
But I moved through it.
Those labels are really, really difficult because I remember the labels that I got a number of labels. They couldn't decide what I was, right? See, this is where they're just guessing. They're just making it all up. They're making it up. And then they tell you like an authority, and then you're supposed to own it, you know, like that's who you are. And people do. That's why I've launched the Skills Not Pills, because people take that label on, they live their life as if they're doom and gloom and like, that's the way I have to live the rest of my life. And I'm going to be on these pills forever because they said so. No, it's not true. But it feels real. And that, I got to tell you, I'm a very empowered person, as you can tell. Like, I'm like my mother's daughter. I'm very like, don't tell me what, because
we call you a polarity responder. We tell you one thing, and we know we'll get one of those. I'll show you.
Yeah, go ahead and tell me I can't. And they gave me the diagnosis. They told me first they told me I was manic depressive. That was when I was 15. I was 15, and they told me I was manic depressive. I'm 15. What 15-year-old isn't manic depressive? Come on. And then they told me I was, but he said, oh, but you're probably bipolar, but I won't put that on your record. On my record. And, and I'm already I've already got the complex about being a bad girl, from my early childhood, right? Like I am bad, so that just fed right into that. And then by the time I was, 38, I was really like the proverbial, SHT was hitting the fan. I don't know about your audience, so I don't want to swear, but it was hitting the fan, and I was like, my marriage was collapsing. I was cheating on my husband. I mean, I really was doing behavior that was outside of my control. Like I didn't know what was going on, and I'd never even been that way before. And I thought, wow, things have gotten to a whole new level of crazy. And then they told me, oh, well, you're borderline personality. And I'm like, borderline personality? I went and looked it up on the internet, and at the time, the Wikipedia definition of that was just horrendous. Like, it was awful. And I could check every box, like everything they said. I was like, I started walking around with that label. And you know what it did for me? It was, oh, well, I am borderline personality. That's why I'm crazy. That's why I can do whatever I want, because I have this label. See, poor me. And it's because of my childhood abuse. So then I could kind of walk around like, I can just do this because. And I did, like I was a victim, completely on the victim corner. And I'm not a victim person. So that's why I want to say, like, I'm a very strong person, and still that worked on me to put me right into that triangle of disempowerment. Right. That's not helping people.
Anything to do with strength. I think a lot of us that we're raised from early on to believe certain people in our life that will tell us what is experts and all of that.
The experts.
The experts, yes. The guessing experts.
But they're, now, Sharon, now we know about quantum physics. Now we know that all they did was spot the possibility in the quantum field, and then they made it so. And then you agreed with it, so you took it on.
Understanding, trust, safety, skills, all sorts of things that we can bring to the table that help us put our lives back in order. That we're not broken people, right, Kerri?
We're not broken, but when they give you a diagnosis like that, Sharon, you really think you're broken. I used to walk around telling people, well, I'm just broken, and then I would just cry and feel sad for myself. And I finally, here was a really powerful thing that happened. I got spiritual teachers, right? And I had some really amazing experiences. We won't get into that right now because it's like too much to cover. It's like so fantastical and amazing, but it's in my book, Awakening to Me. So those journeys are in there. But a really key thing that happened near the end of my training at school, at the Four Winds, when I was studying to be, to do this energy healing stuff, they had a practice where you took a word that was trapping you energetically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically.
Wow.
You took a word that was trapping you, and you used your body, and you used like archetypal forces and energies, and you used your prayer to break free and to evolve that word into a word that was empowering you. So as I did, it was such an empowering experience.
Fascinating.
I mean, I recommend this for anyone who's gotten a diagnosis. Like, this is such a powerful experience. and to move through and energetically sort of like feel like what is that word doing inside of you, and then to work with it. And if it makes you angry, like to get angry, and if it makes you feel trapped, like just demonstrate that, and then to try to like break free of your prison. And as I did that, moving through these perceptual states of like, you know, how am I perceiving things? Am I perceiving things, you know, in my body, or am I perceiving it from my emotions? Perceiving in all these different ways, I transformed the word borderline into boundless.
Oh, wonderful.
And that is way more true.
Yes, that is way more true. That's the Kerri I know. That's way more true. Absolutely. I love that. Now, how did you, with the borderline, that's obviously part of a diagnosis, one of the many diagnoses that you received.
They just couldn't figure me out at all.
Right. Now, I can see where I could put it into some of my diagnoses, but can it just be maybe any word that somehow nags at you?
Any word that nags at you, like you just feel like stuck by that word. Or, you know, the crazy word was another one for me. You know, crazy, you're so crazy. I've had to work on that one for years. And the thing is, what is crazy? This is where I finally got to that one. What is crazy? They used to call Einstein crazy. Crazy is something you don't understand because it's so brilliant. You just don't get it.
Right, right.
It's outside the norm. That's crazy. And that's what a lot of us are doing as thought leaders. You know, we're outside the norm. You know, I just interviewed Swami and Swami Tirtha. And Swami's like, you know, I got a whole lot of crazy badges that I wear. Because people are always calling me crazy, but I talk about joy, you know, and I talk about how we're in, you know, where it's time to play. And it's right, you know, we're in the time of play now, and we're flipping the whole paradigm upside down. So a lot of people are going to be confused right about now because the energy is flipping, you know, it's actually like upside down world, and we're going right side up, you know? And so people are going to be having this experience of like, oh, so now it was all about work and all about, you know, judging ourselves and being critical and, you know, having these negative experiences. Now we're going to flip it, and we're going to be having, you know, play and joy. And what? I'm supposed to get there from here?
Absolutely. We had Swami on. If you're interested in it, check back on the older shows. I'm trying to remember. He was on in the fall, and he's just a fantastic
He's delightful.
guy. He's just fantastic. You know, years ago, I was going through a particularly bad patch in my life, and I've had friends take me to a Dharma dialogue, and I had never been to one, and I was sort of sitting in the back on, what is this? This is very fascinating, but what is this? And I remember two words specifically, and this is 20 plus years ago. And so, have you ever been to those events where somebody says something and it just sticks like glue? And I have been carrying around those two words ever since I heard them, and they were always the words practice joy. And he was talking about how we're told to practice everything in our life. Practice at your career, practice at, you know, an athletic endeavor, practice in a musical endeavor, practice a foreign language. But he says, how come nobody ever tells you to practice being happy and practice joy? And I was like, yeah, how come nobody ever tells you that? So I love that idea of bringing that into our lives.
It's the perspective. It's like, what are you going to focus on? Whatever you focus on grows. And if you look at it, Western culture is focused on, you know, finding what's wrong. So we catalog it, you know, like the list of diseases in Western culture is humongous. Like there's thousands of diseases. If you go to the Amazon forest, they don't have that. You know, that doesn't exist for them. They don't have like 50 million types of cancer.
Yes.
It doesn't exist for them. They actually just don't have it. And actually the founder of my school, Alberto Vialdo, the one reason why he started doing this shamanic work is because he got paid by the pharmaceutical companies to go down to the jungle and research, like, how come there's no diseases down there? Like, they only die of old age. Like, what is wrong with them? You know, clearly we have billions of diseases, you know, so what's wrong with them? And he wanted to find out, like, what's going on? And they went down there, and he realized this whole thing, and he quit working for the pharmaceutical. He said, you know what? It's because of the mentality. The whole mentality needs to shift. And, you know, there's another story along this line, another shaman story, because I love shaman stories, because they think totally outside the box. I interviewed Shaman Durek on my show, and he is a third-generation African shaman. And he talked about how when he goes, when the shaman goes to the village and somebody's sick, and the shaman takes the person away from everybody else and puts them in a safe place away.
Mm-hmm.
And then the relatives come to visit. The relative that comes up is like, oh, I want to see my relative. I feel so bad for my sick person. Da, 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 da. And he says, well, why? Why do you want to see? Well, because they're so sick and I feel so bad and I don't want them to be sick. And they focus on the sick. He says, go away. You can't come in. Somebody else comes up and says, why do you want to come in? Well, because I know that they're going to get better and I just want to hold their hand and I know everything is going to be great for them and I'm sure it's going to be better. Come on in. You can come in. If you can hold that higher vision, you're welcome in because that's what the person really needs. They don't need all the other stuff.
Oh, I love that. I haven't heard that. I love that. I'm adopting that. I love that.
It's like a whole different way of thinking about things, isn't it?
It is. Although I'm thinking to myself, I knew I was going to get well. So
yes.
I knew that I was. So you're right. There were certain people in my life that even non-medical professionals, family members that that went on Dr. Google and read it and got terrified and sort of kept stuck in that terrified, oh my gosh, that's what Sharon has. Oh my gosh. Oh, I know.
Yeah, and when they do that, all it does is feeding that. It's feeding the thing you don't want to feed. It's that old story of the wolves. Like, which wolf are you going to feed? The white wolf or the black wolf? It's your choice. You fed the white wolf. You said, you know what? This thing, I am not that. It's an experience I'm having. I'm going to learn from the experience, but I know I'm not that thing. I don't identify as that thing. I am this vast, brilliant light that's called Sharon Sayler, and I have a beautiful message to bring in the world, and I'm learning so I can bring their message, and I'm having this experience so I can identify with the people that are listening to my show. Period. I am not that.
Yeah, I think, and that's powerful words. I am not that, because that is important to keep in mind, and not just in our wellness journey. Could be anybody giving you any sort of label, that you're strong enough to stand up and say, I am not that.
The information provided on lifeinterruptedradio.com is for educational purposes only. What you hear, read, and see on Life Interrupted Radio is based on experience only. The information presented here should never be used for any legal, diagnostic, or treatment purposes. Always seek sound legal, medical, and or professional advice regarding any problems, conditions, and any of the recommendations you see, hear, or read here on Life Interrupted Radio. You've been listening to Life Interrupted Radio. To learn more, listen to other shows, and gain free resources that can help empower your life, be sure to stop by lifeinterruptedradio.com.